Ciao everyone, today I'm gonna make a well-known Tuscan recipe. It's called Pappa pomodoro. Okay, let's get started. The ingredients are 4 large mature tomatoes, or a can of whole tomatoes can be used, hard crust Italian or European bread, garlic, fresh basil, vegetable broth cube, extra virgin olive oil, salt and ground black pepper. Start by boiling some water for peeling the tomatoes later. Then prepare some garlic by cleaning off a few cloves. Then add them to a large pot. Along with the garlic, add 3/4 cup of olive oil to the pot. Now put the large pot on the stove to simmer at a very low heat. While the garlic is simmering, it's time to peel the tomatoes by adding one at a time into the hot water for a couple of minutes. I usually turn down the heat so the water isn't boiling anymore. After a couple of minutes, or when you see the skin splitting or cracking a little on the surface of the tomato, take it out and add in another. Begin taking the skin off the first tomato. I use a fork and knife so I don't burn my fingers. Repeat this process until all the tomatoes are peeled. Again, if you use whole canned tomatoes, this step can be skipped. After the tomatoes are peeled, cut out the cores and slice them up into cube-like pieces. Then check the garlic and oil to see if the garlic is a light brown color on the outside. If the garlic is ready, add the tomatoes to it. A couple pinches of salt, some ground black pepper, and a couple shakes of peperoncino or red cayenne pepper. At this point, I have also added the broth cube to some water in another small pot and let that simmer until the broth cube has dissolved into the water. Stir around the tomatoes and let them simmer on a low heat. While they're simmering, I prepare the bread by cutting it into half-inch slices. If your bread isn't that hard, you can lightly toast it in a toaster. Next, I take out the garlic cloves from the pot with the tomatoes and add in the broth, about 3 cups here. At this stage, I raise the flame a little to a medium heat. It's time to add the bread, which should be a few days old with a hard crust and compact texture. Add in about 10-12 slices of bread and break them up slowly with a wooden spoon into medium-sized chunks. Then adjust the flame to a medium-low heat and let simmer with the lid on for about half hour until a good part of the broth and tomato juice has been absorbed by the bread. Turn off the burner and let it sit for 40 minutes or so. After that, rip up some basil and add it in. Briefly mixing everything together. This is also a good time to taste it for seasoning. Now it's ready to serve. I add a sea of extra virgin olive oil to the top. Buon appetito!